down with a bad case of food poisoning after yesterday's meeting. She ate a bad batch of baked goods.
If you could prove that on the first occasion you saw a rhinoceros with one horn, either Asiatic or African, and on the second occasion a rhinoceros with two horns, no matter whether African or Asiatic, we would then conclude that we are dealing with two different rhinoceroses, for it is hardly likely that a second horn could grow sufficiently in the space of a few minutes to be visible on the nose of a rhinoceros. In absurdist theatre, there is no such thing as logic. During the processes of developing my character, I found that we need to be asking ourselves the question of what is happening now rather than what is happening in the past or what is happening next. Also in absurdist theatre, words are usually used as sound and noise and lacking the logical purpose of communication. During the performance, I used different tones in my voice to change the sound and noise. I also spoke the words with energy, variety, and certainty to cancel out the emptiness of the language. Pauses and different speech patterns while speaking also help with avoiding monotonous and assist in isolating the audience and reminding them that human thought and process is meaningless. In my performance, I have added random and irrelevant movements. Most of the movements in absurdist theatre are meaningless and are involuntary. Some of these movements are similar to ritualistic ceremonies, circus activities, jugglers, and even mime. These movements are random and repeated and are incorporated to shock the audience and make them feel uncomfortable. Absurdist characters are often one-dimensional and lacking feeling and emotion. That's why in some sections I just chose a blank face. Thank you.
Well, Bruce, I think you have a wonderful grasp of your character already, and I really like it. Just keep remembering to be in the present moment. Don't become distracted by what's happening next or did happen before, because the whole play is supposed to be absurd and utter nonsense. If you let your previous performances influence and dictate how you act now, then the intended randomness of the play will be lost. Maybe you can add more of the, the weird sounds and noises, add more physicalities into your performances that you were doing, just so that even when the audience thinks that they know you, you can shock them again. Keep it energetic, fresh, extravagant, and I'll be happy.
I like it.
Well, really, personally, I've given you all those worksheets which I've done yesterday. I've got stuck into all the research. Basically now my part is done. I'm just going to be sitting there in rehearsal. Now, Bruce, this is going to be hard, but you can't pay any attention to me, okay? I know. Look, because I'm going to be sitting there writing notes. Now, one thing that I really want to bring across in my notes is that there's this very strong social implication behind the play. I mean, it was written after 2 World Wars, the Great Depression. These people have seen death, destruction, they've seen poverty. It wasn't a good time for them. France was involved in 2 more wars after World War I and II, and in between that as well, they were involved in some wars. So, its social implication is that people began to conform out of fear. When the Nazis came in, they were scared of what would happen to them if they weren't like everyone else. So, they conformed to those ideas and to that notion. Now, also love. Daisy's supposed to be in love with Berenger, but she's not. She goes and she joins the rhinos instead of sticking by him. Ionesco has this idea that all we know for certain is that is death.
Obviously, here at Absurdist the Word Productions, we pride ourselves on being an amateur theatre company. We only select absurdist scripts or plays that are thought-provoking, adaptable, and accessible to audiences. In choosing Rhinoceros, I think you'll all agree, by Eugene Ionesco, we wanted to highlight the hypocrisy, conformity, and violence of humans. We sort of updated the script a little bit, given it a bit more of a bit of an edge, so we can hold a mirror up to society and force them to confront the truth of reality. Encourage them to rise above it. Yes, we want to insinuate that life can indeed be profound and rich once you've rose above it. That's one of our goals, because
To write about the human condition.
exactly what you touch on in the history with the Nazis, as the world kind of developed and learnt from that experience, this is what we want to show in the play. I think we've utilised the idea of cross eras very well, because we want to blend and collide time in one setting and context.
I do agree, yes.
In Rhinoceros, we will create a singular period that combines the archaic, the chaos, and the contemporary, using locations, costumes, music, and imagery from many periods of history to discomfort and disconnect the audience, as well as highlighting how timeless and universal issues of the play are. We're going to use minimal props. We're going to use bland sets.
That's very important too.
And costuming. We're going to avoid using vivid, bold colours. So the message that the dullness of life, as a conformist, is portrayed through the colour scheme. And are we all happy that we're staging the play at the Underground off of Light Square in Adelaide? And it adds a form of juxtaposition.
Oh, yeah.
It lulls viewers into a false sense of familiarity. I know where I am, but they don't because of that reason. And it isolates them.
Oh, definitely.
With a dark front of house. That's what I've told our designers.
Yeah.
And the ushers even are going to ask them to remain silent and pace the floor much like the Nazis. So we're going to have small numbers. We're not going to have big crowds. We're going to have a very very small numbers that are allowed in there
Make them
to
feel even
isolate
more.
them
Yes.
even further.
Is there
You know,
going to be seat spacing?
there are, and what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect them, so there's going to be at least about a half a metre distance between each of the seats.
No, that's
like
brilliant.
it.
I like that.
You know, so they're even more disconnected.
Oh, yeah.
So are we all happy with that?
I'm very happy
Yes,
with that. I
I
think
like
you've
it.
really incorporated everything that we've talked about, that we've researched. I think that's brilliant.
I think it's great. Well, maybe you can go and ring Betty now and
I will go
fill
team.
her in.
Yes.
The primary purpose of a publicist is to get bums in seats at shows by telling the audiences what the play is, who wrote it, where and when it's taking place, and who's directing it, and how much the tickets are going to cost. And we have to do this in a creative and attractive way. That's also highly informative. And as a publicist, I also get to design programs and tickets, and I get to write media releases. Well, for me, as with all pieces of absurdist theatre, Rhinoceros ridicules and criticises human existence and the human condition, and questions our very being and why it is. Because it was written after, 2 world wars, the social cultural context played a big part because of the uprising in Nazism, which resulted in mass conformity of the people. And Ionesco wrote this play with the intention of highlighting the utter importance of existentialism.
Oh, yeah.
Through the use of avant-garde techniques such as Dadaism and Surrealism.
Yeah.
World War II also left many people pondering philosophical questions regarding the existence of humans.
Okay.
So why we exist when we are so easily defective to, to social norms that sometimes can be labelled bad, and how we resort to desperate means of survival when our social structures collapse. And Rhinoceros reflects all this and more. And despite the numerous comical moments in the play, Ionesco, in fact, wrote this from a very deep perspective on life, and I am planning on conveying this in my design concepts. Well, due to the close deadline, I've had to use images for the design concepts that I've sourced online in my poster, and then have the programs and tickets just reflect the poster, because it saves a lot more time and it's just a lot more cost effective as well. I've spent a lot of time analysing and drawing ideas from past Rhinoceros posters, as you can see, and then I've been using lots of colours and text and images, playing around with these to see which will symbolise or emphasise elements of the play. And the result of this research and development, the poster, which is right here.
That is very good.
Oh,
hold
thank
on,
you.
hold on. Can you just hold that up so I can get a good look at? Oh, wow.
So, I chose this picture because it was an original image, because it was highly adaptable and it was abstract, and it was a very symbolic piece of art. The extensive use of red in the poster conveys the aggression, power and overall intensity of the text. And colouring the hunched over figure down here in the corner, the same colour, symbolises just how overwhelming the world and its expectations are on individuals.
Yeah.
The 3 silhouettes, which hauntingly stand over the hunched over figure,
Oh, yes, I see them.
they highlight the coldness of society, because white is symbolic for cold. And again, it shows just how intimidating people can be when they're trying to force their views and values onto you.
Oh, yeah.
To complement this, I placed the phrase, "Will you capitulate?" 3 times on top of the rhinoceros,
Oh, yeah, I see
in
that.
white, as
That's
if
good.
to,
Like a shadow.
yeah, like a shadow. And it's a lot like these 3 people are asking the hunched over figure, will they give in to the pressures that they are placing?
Oh, yeah.
This repetition
Wow.
also highlights the strange utilisation of language in Rhinoceros.
Yeah.
Finally, the shadow of all 4 of these figures come together to form a rhinoceros, and
Wow.
this symbolises how there is a rhino inside each of us, and how humans are in fact very animalistic.
That's good.
And and we all have our darkness. I also included in the poster the play title, the production company, the playwright, the director, where it's located, the dates and times, and ticketing information and contact.
That's good.
So I used the font Suru as my title font because it's very abstract and it contrasts the brush stroke nature of the background.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty much the same reason for using Decibel as my details font, because even though it was simple and legible, it did have that abstract feel to it, and it creates a very visually absurd atmosphere.
Yes, I can see that, yeah. Good.
Playing with all of these techniques is also symbolic of how the playwrights of absurdist theatre played around with their own theatrical techniques, such as manipulating themes and characterisation and plot. Now, keeping in with this concept, the tickets and the program. So I continued the colour scheme and the text and the use of fonts to create consistency, so when the people see this, they all identify with it, so they go, oh, that's a picture from Rhinoceros. In the program, I included the director's note from Bernie. I included a list of the companies, so the cast and crew involved in the production, and thank you notes, which Bernie put together. For the tickets, as you can see, I cropped the original image just to be the silhouette of the rhinoceros, and again,
that's quite nice.
continued colours and continued text as well. And finally, in writing the media release, I developed a highly informative and innovative promotion for the media to present to our potential audiences, and in this I gave a brief summary of the play's purpose and plot, as well as promoting the theatre company and the people who are heavily involved in the production. And I also summarised performance details again, and gave further contact information, particularly in my case. Now, I'm sure that each and every one of these products are going to successfully promote our production, and with Bernie's approval, I'm going to start sending out publicity packets consisting of the poster and the media releases today.